Mario Kart, one of history's most beloved and iconic video game franchises, is back in the news because it is finally getting a new installment in 2025. But recently, something else about this franchise has been keeping me up at night. No matter how much I toss and I turn, this dreaded question keeps replaying in my head. Has Mario, Nintendo's frontman, their biggest seller, the character that the game is named after, ever been good at it? I associate Mario with one word whenever I think of a Mario sports or racing game. Mid. No matter the game, Mario Kart, Mario Super Sluggers, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, you can count on Mario's stats being the exact same. Balanced. Everything straight down the middle. Boring even. What am I saying? They're incredibly boring. Now, in some of these other sports games, these balanced stats aren't necessarily bad, allowing Mario to be solid at anything he's asked to do. However, in Mario Kart, it's a little bit different. Throughout each installment, even Super Mario Kart, the game has given more importance to certain stats than others. This has led to the birth of meta characters in each of these games. And let's just say, when your stats are middle tier in pretty much everything, you're never going to be the shining star. But who knows, maybe I'm wrong. That is precisely why we'll be going back in time to see exactly how good Mario has been historically in his own racing game. Let's go back to where it all began. Super Mario Kart. The year was 1992, also known as 12 years pre-Eskyyt. Nintendo released the first edition of their new fantastic franchise with Super Mario Kart on the SNES, completely changing the racing game industry forever. 8 characters were featured in this game, and the consensus is that Koopa Troopa was the OG killer. Or meta, I guess you could say. He led the pack in both handling and acceleration, which were the most critical stats in this game. Considering that it came out in 1992, I was extremely impressed to figure out that the characters even carried stats. But what impressed me even more was the fact that there was an in-depth manual guide on how good each character was on each track with little smiling stars. This manual is great because everyone knows that smiling stars math is the best type of math. So, to figure out how good Mario was in this game, I will be referring to this manual. If you exclude battle mode and add up all the little stars, subtracting 1 star for every sad little triangle, you will see that Mario and Luigi get absolutely smoked by every other racer. Now, while I'm sure this isn't the most accurate guide, it is pretty clear that the game devs knew the standard performance bros were inferior to all the other racers. Not off to a hot start, Mario, but on to the next. Next up is Mario Kart 64, released in 1996 and, of course, was on the N64. Real creative name, Nintendo. This game is said to not have any glaring stats that separated the characters from one another, but something about them did matter. Their weight. And no, Nintendo was not fat shaming. Yoshi and Peach were coined the meta of this edition because of their lightweight build along with their slight speed buff, with the heavyweight characters trailing closely behind them. You know what wasn't closely behind? Our middleweight buddy Mario. This was a perfect example of how Mario's jack of all trades, master of none stat sheet gets absolutely demolished in a game with stats that lean in one direction or another. So, from the looks of it, the 20th century was rough for Mario on the racetrack, but let's hope the new millennium can help him turn his racing luck around. Moving on to the first handheld edition of Mario Kart, the Game Boy Advance released Mario Kart Super Circuit in 2001, with the same cast of characters as the N64, but changing it up by tweaking almost everyone's stats just a little and making acceleration the most important. Even though it was discovered that acceleration was literally just speed in disguise. Confusing, right? These changes created the new meta character of Toad, and would you like to take a guess at the character whose stats were not tweaked at all? Ding ding ding, it was Mario. This actually played into his favor, however, as most of the forums that I checked explained that he actually was an above average player in this game, giving Mario his first positive rating in the series. Hooray! Wow, the bar is set really low for this, isn't it? Our next installment is Mario Kart Double Dash on the GameCube, released in 2003, or just 1 year before Eskyyt arrived on this earth, and had multiple new features that came along with it. The biggest new feature was that you could race with 2 different characters at the same time. This means that Mario had double the opportunity to be included in the meta, but too bad the meta once again wasn't have the most boring attributes in the entire game. This is also the first game to emphasize mini turbo, and with the lightweights in the game having double the mini turbo stats of the middleweights, Mario and his boring buddies were blown out of the water, putting him back in the mid tier once more. Continuing on to our next mainline installment, subtle foreshadowing for later, we will be heading to the first Mario Kart that I ever played, Mario Kart DS. Released in 2005, this game takes the emphasis that Double Dash had created with mini turbos and takes it to the next level, with the overpowered strategy of snaking and acceleration being the meta. The character who led the pack in these stats was Little Boy Drybones. And to absolutely no one's surprise whatsoever, Mario's stats are just average. Why does Nintendo hate letting this man shine in his own racing game? If I was Mario, Mario, I'd be looking for a rebrand with Sega right about now, but I guess you do you, bud. That'll make us past the halfway point of this timeline, and next we will be heading on to my all-time favorite rendition of this franchise, Mario Kart Wii. Mario Kart Wii is a beautiful game that gives me uncharted levels of dopamine and nostalgia, but if we are honest, it should have just been named Mario Bike Wii. The meta of this game was dominated by bikes because of their ability to chain wheelie boosts, making snaking with a cart an inferior strategy for the most part. This created a pretty fun stat meta of speed and weight, and nobody had more speed, weight, and most importantly, aura than the man Funky Kong himself. Also, only heavyweights were allowed to use the best bike in the game, the Flame Runner, but the middleweights were still able to use the slightly inferior Mach bike. So was Mario's stats at least good enough to put him into the top of that category? Nope, not even close. He was actually impressively bad, ranking himself second to the worst in the middleweight category. This may actually be the lowest we've seen Mario ranked, and considering that time is running out for Nintendo's frontman to make a statement, I'm kinda starting to feel bad for him. But not bad enough to stop making fun of him. Now, on to the 7th edition of the Mario Kart franchise, Mario Kart 7. The most recent handheld version of this franchise is where Nintendo began to change the game forever by introducing underwater driving and gliding. Mario, once again, was an average middleweight, but who knows, maybe since there's a bunch of new stats in this game, his constant mediocrity will push him ahead of the others. Who am I kidding? He of course got blown out of the water by any lightweight because Nintendo doesn't give out the meta to people with boring stats. However, I did see some rumblings that a certain version of Mario was one of the best racers in this game. So if you count Metal Mario as the same guy, this is technically the first time we've seen him shine as a top character. Too bad I don't care about that at all, as I want to see regular old average Mario shine, not some cheap heavy metal version of him. That'll take us to the modern Mario Kart era with Mario Kart 8. Not Deluxe, for the Wii U. This installment added yet another game mechanic with anti-gravity, giving average old Mario another stat to blow us away with. Wait, what? What am I looking at? Are Mario's stats not the same across the board? He has a lower acceleration and handling stat. This can't be. He's done it. He's broken the mold. He's escaped the Matrix. I feel like a proud father, and oh shit, his weakest stats are the meta of this game. With mini turbo handling and acceleration being the meta, Mario doesn't hold a candle to most of his competitors, the best one being Wario. But if you squint really hard at Wario's name, you could gaslight yourself into thinking it says Mario. Well, that leaves Mario with just one more chance to prove he isn't a garbage racer. Or is it? Do you remember when I said something about the mainline installments and proceeded to say subtle foreshadowing mischievously? Well, we are now at the now shadow. I don't think that's a word. Have you ever been to an arcade and noticed a particular racing game with all our Mario friends plastered around its frame? That, my friend, is Mario Kart Arcade GP. And there's actually 3 installments of these spin-off Mario Karts. And since they're all featured on Mario Kart Wiki, I thought I better give them a look-see. Now, before you even ask, no, I am not looking at any of the stats on Mario Kart Tour. Why, you might ask? Because I don't want to. Moving on, there isn't much said about these arcade games and their meta, but I'm hoping that maybe since these are some funky spin-off games, they might be a little more adventurous with their character statistics and give Mario some cooler stats. So let's take a look. 3 out of 5 stars, 3 out of 5 stars, 3 out of 5 stars, 3 out of 5. Are you serious, Nintendo? What does he have to do to make you believe that he's not just an average man? He has talents, you know. He's constantly saving Peach and taking down Bowser and making you millions of dollars. So at least put some respect on his name and make him the best character in at least one of your racing games. Our final stop in the Mario Kart time machine today is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Released in 2017, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the highest selling game on the Switch with nearly 70 million copies sold, and even had a game-changing DLC come out over the last couple years. I'll be using the meta as it stands today, as I don't really want to go back to remembering the tragic days of Walu Wiggler, or do that much crazy research. This game only has 2 stats that actually matter, one of which you can't even see on the stat sheet. Nice, Nintendo. They are speed and mini turbo. If you're watching this video, you're probably nerdy enough to know that Yoshi, Peach, and a few others hold the best combination of these stats with 6 speed and 4 mini turbo, but doesn't that seem pretty close to being average in both? This makes me a little excited to see what Mario is beholding on his stat sheet, so wait, what? He has 7 speed and 3 mini turbo? Which means his stats are less balanced in the meta? How could this be? Maybe Mario is finally getting the diversity he deserves, but more importantly, does that make him good in this game? Now, although he's obviously not the meta and is behind a few characters, the combination of speed and mini turbo definitely makes him an above average character. You could even say, a great character. He's done it. Thanks, Nintendo. Now let's just hope that Mario can take this stat diversity momentum into the next installation of Mario Kart and even break the mid barrier once and for all and become the best meta character to use ever. Let's be honest, it's probably just going to be Yoshi again. That's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe, as it lets me know that you enjoyed this content and you would like to see me make some more. With that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye!